Whew, okay, so we're on the back wheel and the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to build up the middle part, put all the bearings and bits and pieces in, and so I'm working on this one today, the back part, and that's obviously where the hub is, and we'll work our way backwards and see how we do today. So I've cleaned everything up in terms of that. I'm just about to put a little bit of grease on the threads. I'm using that high melting point grease again just to help it do there. And the first thing it says to do is to put in the bearing washer. So that's the first one that I'm putting in, and that should go home. Yep, that's gone home nice and flat. And then the second thing it says to do is the bearing. So again, like I did with the front ones, I'm just going to put a smattering of grease on the bearing just to help it go in. There it is. And just like before, I'm just going to use a socket that just fits over the bearing nicely to tap it home. And like I did before, nice and steady. Yep, it's going down all right. Yep, you can definitely see that the thread's becoming there, so it's going home just nicely. And I'm just waiting for that sound to tell me that the bearings reach its home drive. I'll just check to see. Yep, there you go. That's nice and home, and still spins all right. So that's that one done. So it then says number 39, and number 39 is a felt retaining steel washer, which is on there. And then it talks about number 40, and number 40 is, that's the bearing, 38. The lock ring. And oh gosh, this is the lock ring. It's got some threads, and again, just like the front one, it's got supposed to use some BSA magical tool to do it up, but I'll be using my screwdriver again. And like before, I'm just going to put a little smattering of grease on just to help it as I do it. So get it on. And again, like before, it's got a, there we are, the thread goes the opposite way. What do they call it? A right hand thread. And you can just see it and feel it going all the way home. So I'll just get my hammer through screwdriver and just tighten it up like I did before. Taking my time, tapping it gently rather than doing it lots of heavy ones. Check. Oh yeah, still spinning lovely. So the next thing, number 37, which should be the felt washer, and I treat myself to some new washers on here, and like before I'll just put some engine oil on them. Oops. Just to catch any of the dirt and the dust or anything left there, that's all it comes. And then the next thing that comes through is the cap that goes over the top like that. So that's now nicely built. And the next thing that goes through would be the distance piece, which goes onto there. And then the next thing that would be the nut that holds everything on. But because we haven't yet built up the drum for the brakes, we haven't put the cogwheel on, I'm just going to take everything off from that way forward there, and so that I'm keeping it all in one piece. Then I'll put that on when I get round to it, and then let's have a look at the thing. Now, mustn't forget the spacer, because the spacer is going to control how far the next bearing will go in. So on this side I'm working on this, the plan. So I'm working that way through, whereas on the other one I was working that way. This time I'm working that way through. So the first thing is the bearing. So like I said before, I bought myself some new bearings. They weren't very much, but definitely worthwhile doing. There we go. Just put, like I've just done before, just a smattering of grease on the outside. And these bearings, just like the other bearings really, they're sealed for life. You don't have to work the grease in like you used to have to do for old bearings. The sealed bearings. So again, that goes on. Get the socket. And here we go. Going in. So that bearing's in and flush. The next thing is the ring. The next thing is the felt washer. Just give it a little, just a touch of oil. Just like, let's make sure it's okay. Nope, something's wrong. Obviously the bearing isn't in because that's way too far out. So let's see if we can get the bearing tapped a bit further home. That's a bit better. I was being too doing a bit too light with it before. Yep, that's home. That's a lot better. I was obviously not hitting it hard enough to drive it home, and clearly when you see, yeah, there's a bit more space there now. So, ring on, fits nicely. Washer and bearing cap. Just checking that out. I bet you wouldn't. Bet you that felt wash is a bit thick. Yeah, that's it. That's what was wrong. Again, I was being too soft with it, and that felt washer is a bit driving it home. And then that one goes on there, I think, for the speedo drive. To go on there. Yeah. So, and then these will hold on to the speedo drive. So I can't do any more in there because the next thing that we have to do is to put the brakes on the other side. So I'll just take that off and put it to one side for the time being, and then hopefully we'll do the brakes in a minute, and then we'll sort it from there. But one of the other things we have to do is put the final drive, and I've got an envelope because I ended up going down to Hull to Scott's Nuts and Bolts to get some nuts and bolts to fasten the final drive cog on. Doesn't that look nice? Only trouble is it won't last long, will it? Because when you get the chain on and all the rest of it, it's soon going to lose its newness. So got the nuts and bolts, spring washer, just holding it on, and then just making sure they grip them. There you go. So it's going to be a bit boring this really, because there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 bolts to go through. So it'll be a bit boring while I just do it. So I've just been informed by my artistic director, my daughter, that I should show you all the bolts going on, otherwise people will say that we've cheated and somebody else put the bolts on. Not that there's anybody else here really. So that's the cog on. We know the two bearings are in, and so then build up the brakes and we'll see how we go from there. And that's going to be our next video clip. So I'll turn this one off and we'll see how we go.